What's up, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Scythe, and today we're starting part 2 of TROVE'S Rarest Mounts. We're going to be hitting a high note right at the beginning by starting this video with all of the legendary birds. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you do, don't forget to leave a like. Let's get to it. So now we gotta hop into an adventure world because we're gonna be showing off the legendary birds, and these things will only end up working in adventure worlds. They don't end up working in clubs. So these are all going to be mounts that you get out of Troves of Wonder. While these first 3 birds are not necessarily going to end up being on our top 40 list of even the rarest mounts in the game or anything, they are still worth mentioning just because they actually do something cool. So this guy's going to be what I call the pretty bird, and quite literally is going to end up planting flowers behind you that look like screws. Yeah, while Alluri, the ice bird, is probably one of the coolest functionalities, honestly, because it just ends up creating ice on water, and unless they ended up patching it, yeah, you can actually use this sucker underwater too, which is just so cool. I love the idea of these mounts that ended up actually having different functionality. You can see too, we actually still do carry the effect of walking on ice as well, so you can kind of use it to your advantage in water worlds if you don't end up having a good boat, but honestly speaking, you're probably gonna have a pretty good boat by the time you end up getting this mount. While on the opposite side of the spectrum, we've got Kabiri, which is an absolutely beautiful looking mount in general. Has nice video effects, but I mean, it's not really going to be the most effective outside of just going to a fire world, because the fire world sucks and nobody wants to be in here because it's all gross and orange. But this guy can walk on lava, which actually has a little bit more functionality, I would argue, because not only does it actually look really cool, but it's also going to prevent you from taking damage from the lava if you don't have some of the boats or some of the items that actually prevent you from taking lava damage. And finally, last of the legendary birds, but by no means the last mount that we're going to be talking about in today's video, Ganda, one of the all-time rarest mounts in the entire game, because you still can never get this thing out of Trove of Wonder boxes. Granted, it's completely random. That's one thing that's disappointing with Trove, is it's 100% random. You are not slowly working your way towards getting this mount. I would recommend more often than not to actually just buy this thing, because you're not going to end up spending as much flux to buy it as you would trying to unbox it if you're in my situation. I think I'm at 35 to 40 million flux on Trove of Wonders alone, and I have done unboxing videos of all those Troves of Wonders, and I've never gotten a Ganda. I honestly could have bought 3 or 4 Ganda within the amount of flux that I've spent on Trove of Wonders. Maybe one day I'll end up unboxing it, but I was fortunate enough to be able to buy this back when it was considerably cheap. And the reason why this is not only one of the rarest, but one of the best mounts in the entire game is it quite literally creates golden blocks out of thin air. Now you might be asking yourself, well, how is this going to end up being useful? I get stuck trying to go down and go into dungeons. Well, yes, it would be nice to have a functionality to be able to turn off the gold block trail. For the most part, you gotta think of it more positively, guys. You have infinite jump in a game that quite literally in the Geode Topside, the most recent biome in the game, requires a lot of jump. So I would always have argued that this was one of the more useful mounts in the game for end game, because by the time you're at end game, you're usually faster at being off of your mount anyways, so you can just as easily hop off and then run down the golden trail, slam yourself into a dungeon, whatever, there you go. But now, especially with the Geode Topside, we have infinite jump, because as soon as you end up running out of jump, you just land on a golden trail. So while I don't want to draw too much attention to the badge mounts that you can end up getting in the game, I do want to pull out this bad boy right here just because I particularly like it. There's actually a couple different rich mounts that you will end up getting out of, I forget if it's gameplay or social, but you can go through these badge listings here and see some of the mounts that you end up getting out of it. The Questing Esquarian or whatever is not a particularly cool mount, but you get it out of completing 12,000 dungeons, and then you end up getting a bunch of wings a little bit further on. Then there's also the Infinium Charger for unboxing 6,000 boxes, so on and so forth. There's a couple different mounts that you get out of all of these things. And then there's the loyalty mounts. So pay no attention to my loyalty points, okay? Everybody always goes crazy about all my loyalty points and junk. You can end up getting the Fancy Carpet, and finally, well, actually, the Fancy Carpet is the last mount that you can get out of it.
And loyalty points breaks down into 200 loyalty points is 200 American dollars. So while you might be sitting here going, whoa, Scythe, you've almost spent $10,000 on this game, there's a couple things to consider in that, wise guy. First of all, I've played this game for roughly 4 years. Can you look at any game that you've played for 4 years, especially a highly cash shop driven game, and say that you've spent less than me? On top of that, there's been various passcodes and packs that the developers have given me in the past that did in fact end up counting towards my loyalty points. So unfortunately, there's no way for me to determine just how much money I've actually spent on this game. I also wanted to take the moment to talk about the Tiny T-Rex, not so much the Tiny T-Rex specifically, but there's going to be a couple different mounts that you probably wouldn't have seen, including this guy right here, because these were actually daily login items, or not daily login items related to the daily login crafting system. Those items have been recycled into Luxian's crafting inventory when you buy items from him, but sometimes you would end up going into the store and there would end up being a free daily login item you could end up getting for a couple days to a month or so, and the Tiny T-Rex was one of them. So was a tractor mount and stuff like that. It's very cool stuff, but they are considered quite rare just because you can't really get them anymore, because you can't get them consistently. And in closing, I think you guys all know what we're going to be showing off here while we're in the Everdark. We've got probably the rarest mount in the entire game that you will never end up seeing anybody use. Thankfully, it's a promo mount, so it doesn't actually come with any mastery, and there's a little bit of a story behind it. This is Yabaki. This is the shadow version of Ganda. Back in the day, like this mount is literally years old. It took so long for the developers to put this mount into the game, and even when they finally put it into the game, it was very lackluster because the only way that you can attain this mount was by watching a developer live stream and getting randomly chosen during that live stream through a small brief window when they were actually giving away Yabaki mounts. Now, I tried to talk to my contact over at GameAgo to see if they could end up getting me a bunch of these Yubeki codes, because unfortunately, as it stands right now, we barely get any Trove developer live streams. They don't know how to give anything away because, of course, their giveaway account is still tied to Tryon Worlds. Tryon Worlds, of course, is they don't exist anymore. Now GameAgo is the publisher that ends up owning this game. Tryon Worlds isn't there anymore. I've got plenty of videos that talk about all the history of everything that's going on with Trove and GameAgo and blah blah blah. But my point being is we will probably never see the developers giving this mount away ever again. I was very fortunate in that I had a very dedicated fan win it and throw this code to me, and I was hoping that I would end up getting another code from the dev so I could simultaneously throw it back to him if he hasn't already quit by this point. Now, what ended up happening with the history of this mount is long ago, we're talking 2 or 3 years ago, the developers ended up putting this mount into the game and teasing it. And it quite literally was a shadow version of Ganda, where it would create blocks out of thin air that were going to be kind of dark purple and shadowy themed, which would have been awesome. I think if that was the case with this mount, I wouldn't blame anybody for keeping the mount for, like, the fan that dedicated it. I would not think 2 seconds about if he just used it himself. Of course, I only wanted it just so that I could show it off in videos to you guys and actually get some hype around it, because if a content creator doesn't talk about something like this, nobody's gonna know about it, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, after the continual iterations of them remaking the mount and changing its looks and changing some of the video effects and stuff like that, we ended up getting an absolutely amalgamated mess of a mount that, weirdly enough, shoots a laser out of its head. Yeah. And, it's the fastest lasermancy in the game for sure, but that doesn't mean that it's good, because you can quite literally use a bulldozer for a better functionality when you're in Club Worlds. However, yeah, you could technically use this guy to end up farming for like ore and stuff like that, but you can't actually get blocks out of him for some reason. Certain areas the laser works, sometimes it doesn't. It's really fast, even faster than some of the highest lasermancy in the game. Lasermancy is the hidden stat that nobody really refers to, which is your digging speed. And there's a couple flasks and emblems and stuff like that that you can end up, or just an emblem I think that you can use that gives you quite literally the max lasermancy, which I never tested whether or not it's better than this Lasermancy, but either way, it was very lackluster that they ended up throwing this into the game the way that they did, and it's very disappointing that we'll probably never see anybody ever end up winning this mountain again. Because through my contact with them, I was trying to get my hands on the Yabaki code, and basically they ended up saying, well, we'll give you these gunslinger codes instead, which I'm not trying to sound ungrateful here, but I really wanted to be able to have the opportunity of giving even at least one of these bad boys away every month. I think that would totally be fair for considering the story behind this mount, even if it's not really a mount that's generally coveted for any other reason other than it's rare. Thank you for watching though, everybody. Very much appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this updated video, finally, of Trove's Rarest Mounts. Don't forget to like, sub, hit that notification bell. If you want to go the extra mile of supporting me, you can always sponsor the YouTube channel with that join button down below. Buy some of the real life merch. Oh, hi, Merc. Or should I say, buy some of the real life Merc, right? Otherwise, there is a link down below to Gawkbox, which is a way you can donate for free. And if you're a new player coming to Trove, you can use the sign up link down below, which is basically an affiliate link where you'll sign up through that, start playing Trove, and if at any point you ever end up buying anything out of the store, I'll end up making a percentage of that, which is absolutely awesome. Thanks for watching though, regardless. Sayonara, and stay epic, everybody.